Hi, I decided to make a short video. Let's see if I can fit everything that I wrote down and if I can remember. I'm just say all the glory to God, and I hope He helps me with this video. My last video got cut off. I was talking about children can also go against you. King David's son Absalom was trying to kill him. If you want to know more about the story, because I don't want to go deep into detail, just know that I believe that was placed in the story to tell you that just anybody in your family could do it, could become, it wasn't his enemy, because David loved his son and he didn't really want to hurt him back, but he was running from his son to protect himself. But just know anybody can afflict you, even your own family. That's kind of what I got from that story. There's a lot more to it than just that, there was a reason Absalom was upset with David. It all started with his sister Tamar, and his other brother. So it was his brother, but they had different mothers. I guess you call him stepbrother. Forced himself on his true sister. I guess they were step siblings. Anyways, read the story. I don't want to go much into detail about it, but just know, your children can also, be like a stumbling block for you in life, And I also had talked about David pursuing Bathsheba in one of my last videos, and I wanted to state something about that because I heard somebody else state this in their video and I thought it was good. They had said that when you're in the wrong place, that's when you're doing something wrong when you're in the wrong place. David, this guy, I seen online, brought this up. He said David was in the wrong place, and I agreed with what he said, because he said if David was at home, he wouldn't have seen Bathsheba and he wouldn't have pursued her, because he was in the wrong place. Because in those days when they went out to battle, the kings went to battle with their men, and in this story David was home while his men were out in battle. He wasn't on the battlefield, he was home, and he wasn't where he should have been, and so he was there, and he pursued Bathsheba and started an affair with her. She was a married woman. Her husband was on the battlefield, So when you're in a wrong place where you're not supposed to be, that's when bad things can happen. Temptation. You can start on a bad road if you're in the wrong place. So I agreed with that. David should have been on the battlefield. He was a king. Kings went to war in those days with their men. So I agreed with that video I seen. And then I also wanted to say, I don't know why I wrote this, but I'm gonna speak on what I think why I wrote it. I wrote, the devil wants to lock us up, and I think he would like to do that to God's people and make them seem crazy, or just get them out of character so that they can get locked up, or put in an insane asylum, wherever, just to be put away, just so they won't speak on God's word, God's truth, so that people won't know what's really going on out here. Because of course he's not going to want to, it's a war, of course he's going to go after God's people, because he doesn't want them to speak. He doesn't want them to change people to follow God or get back on the right track. So of course, what better way to get rid of you is by locking you up anywhere, jails, a sane asylum, just anywhere, even putting you in bad relationships where you don't even have a say in your own life, and a say in, to help others, put you in a bad situation, So yeah, locked up can look like many things, but The devil is at war with God's people. He doesn't want you to speak. He doesn't want you to acknowledge God. So that's why I always say Christians have the hardest road, even though people don't understand. They think, oh, well, you're with God, you probably have it easy. I don't believe that's true, because the devil's attacking them harder. And then the next thing I wrote, I talked the last one about wives. They're kind of their roles. I didn't really speak on men. I'll speak a little bit on it. I didn't write a whole lot. I just wrote that, the men should be the breadwinner. They should be supportive. They should be head of the household. They should be the protector. I know, some of these can be hard, especially in the times we're in. It's really expensive to live. It's hard to be just the breadwinner alone. I understand that, but just know, while you're expecting your wife to work half and half, she also has to come home and do the duties around the home, and that also is work. It's also a job. It also takes a lot to upkeep a household and kids, and make sure there's groceries in the house. It's work. It takes a lot from a woman. So if you're expecting your wife to be also a breadwinner, then you should also be expected at help in her chores also. That's how I feel. It's a lot of work to put everything on a woman, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. Yeah. And I told my son this, and I think all men should hear this, because I don't know, because I feel like men think, oh, well, I am the gift for the woman, and I told my son, well, that's great. You might look attractive today, and you might be able to get any woman you want and treat women any way that you want. But like in 10 years from now, what are you going to really have to offer like a woman? Or how are you going to keep that woman, if you're only thinking you're keeping her with your looks, because those fade. And that goes for a woman too, if this is all you think you're keeping your man with is looks fade. What are you going to offer in 10 years if you have nothing else to offer? Like, I tell my, son, like, you should have skills, so they've learned to cook, they've learned to, do other things and just look, look good, I mean, it's nice to look just good, but, what else do you have to offer? What else are you gonna bring to the table? Like, yeah, it's good to know some stuff, just saying. But anyways, and then we're gonna move on from that. So I had wrote, Judas knowingly or unknowingly worked against himself. Like, he took money for, to betray Jesus. I don't know if he knew what he was doing, if he did it for just the money, or if he did it knowing that he was working against Jesus. I don't know, but either way, he worked against himself. I mean, sometimes it's better to try to, before you make decisions, try to think about what the outcome is going to be for those decisions, I'm not saying that you can know the outcome, but sometimes you should think about what you're doing. I don't know why Judas took this extra money. Like, it kind of seemed like wherever Jesus and the disciples went, they were kind of like welcomed and they were provided for. So I don't understand why he needed that extra money. Yeah, it doesn't really go into detail about his life. I did hear though that there was what are those called? I heard there was a scroll that was found that had Judas's accounts, but like, I don't know if that's true, and I've never read it if it's online. They said there was one of Judas, and then they said there was one of Mary. which again, I don't know if that was true. Um, and then I wanted to like talk about this story I read online. I read it a long time ago, so I couldn't tell you the names because I'm bad with names. And then or where it's at in the Bible, but it's kind of always stuck with me because I don't know. It's just something that I have never forgotten. So I wrote promises to God can hurt, like so there was, I'm assuming he was a king because he went to war and he asked God if God can give him, the win on that battle. I can't recall what they were battling for. Um, but he went to battle with someone else, and the promise he made to God was, if you allow me to win this battle, when I come home, the first person I see, I will dedicate them to you, give them to you, have them, you have their life. And so when he came back from war, he won the battle. So it was time for him to give the first person he's seen. And when he came home to his town, the first person he seen was his daughter. I think this was his only daughter that he loved so much, and it hurt his soul, but he promised God his daughter. And the daughter understood. I think he asked God for one day with her, but yeah, that was his promise, so he did it. She was, they put her, it was her end time because of the promise he made to God, and she knew, and he knew, and she was willing, even though, yeah, it's hurtful, it's painful, but he made that promise to God. So I'm saying your gift to God has to be something meaningful to you. Like Cain and Abel, like if you hear their story, like Cain, who is it? I can't even think of the story now. My mind's thinking about the other story. One offered, the first fruits of their no, I'm wrong about that. I'm gonna open my Bible because my mind is just bad. Sorry. You think I would know this story well enough, but yeah. So anyhow, I'm just gonna say it this way. One of them offered the first, it was a more thought out offering, because one thought out their offering better and the other one just gave whatever they had to give. So that's what I'm saying. When you're giving to God, it has to be more thought out, because you can't just give God anything. Like even Jesus died on the cross for us, but he had to be he was without sin. He was perfect. He was without blemish. And when they were giving their offerings before Jesus came, the things that they offered had to be without blemish. They had to be like perfect condition. Jesus went at that time of his age because he was a prime age for the man at that time. So he had to go at that age. He couldn't have went later. He would have started having like body difficulties, defects, He was prime age. He was in perfect condition. That's why he went at the time he went. And it kind of also reflects like when they talk about when the people who go and tithe and donate to God, the ones with more money, it wasn't given out of their, it wasn't as meaningful because they had so much. It was more meaningful for the poor person who gave their last, money they had, their last, because that's all they had. So it was more meaningful. So what I'm trying to say is, whatever you promise to God, it has to be meaningful. It has to be something that means something to you, something that, is hard for you to give up. It's something hard. You can't just say, oh God, I'm going to give up eating for like one day and we're good. I mean, you could, and God does appreciate that, because it's hard to go out without one day without eating. I've done it and it's hard. um I've done it, I've even gone to work and done that. It was so hard. That was one of the hardest things, to like have to work. And I've seen other people do it too, and I felt so bad for them. I don't go and tell people when I've done it, but I've been told by other people that they were fasting and they were working, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's terrible. It really is, especially if you've done it and so that is, it's, I guess it's not just the gift you give to God, it's the meaning behind it. Like, yeah. So the more it means to you, the more it means to God too. So, yeah. So, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Sorry. Yeah, my mind's been all over. But anyways, I'm gonna leave this here because my mind's a little all over the place right now. But I want to say God bless you. Say a prayer for me. I'll say one for you. And thank you. Bye.